Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something that, well, it sounds a bit technical, orthostatic hypotension, but it actually affects a lot of people, especially as we get older.
That's right. And we've got some good material here: clinical reviews, research papers, articles looking at related things like chronic fatigue syndrome and small fiber neuropathy.
Hmm.
So our mission today, just using these sources, is to really cut through the jargon, understand what orthostatic hypotension actually is, who tends to get it, and maybe most importantly, why it happens.
Right. So the basics first. What exactly is it? The sources give a pretty clear clinical definition.
Yeah.
It's defined as a sustained drop in your blood pressure, specifically when you stand up.
Right. So that systolic number, the top one, drops by at least 20 points.
Okay.
Or the diastolic, the bottom number, drops by at least 10. And that happens within 3 minutes of standing up from sitting or lying down.
And it's not always obvious, is it? The
Yeah.
sources say it can be symptomatic, you feel it, or asymptomatic, you don't feel a thing.
Exactly. Or even present in sort of atypical ways.
Okay, so when people do feel it, what are the common symptoms mentioned in the readings? Things like dizziness, feeling lightheaded.
Yeah, those are the big ones. Blurred vision, fatigue sometimes, nausea, maybe feeling your heart race palpitations, headaches too.
But there were some less common ones mentioned, even kind of surprising things like actually fainting, syncope.
Fainting, shortness of breath, and sometimes even pain, like chest, neck, or shoulder pain just from standing up.
Which really brings us to the next point, who is typically dealing with this. The sources are pretty clear, it becomes much more common with age.
Definitely. The numbers suggest something like 1 in 5 people aged 60 or older might experience it.
1 in 5, wow. But is it only older people? What about younger patients? Do the sources mention them?
They do. For younger people, the sources suggest looking at neurogenic causes, so problems with the nervous system's control over blood pressure.
Oh, okay.
That is, unless there's something more straightforward going on, like just being dehydrated, volume depletion.
Okay. And the materials also mention something called postprandial hypotension, a drop after eating.
Yeah, that's highlighted too. Particularly common, again, in older folks, and also in people who already have known issues with their autonomic nervous system, what they call autonomic failure.
And this is where we start connecting some dots based on the sources.
Mhm.
Orthostatic intolerance, which can include these OH symptoms,
Right.
is actually listed as a diagnostic criterion for chronic fatigue syndrome, CFS-ME.
That link is there. And the connection to small fiber neuropathy, SFN, is really quite strong in these papers.
Yeah, I saw that. They say it's closely correlated. Up to half of SFN patients might have OH symptoms. Can you elaborate on why that connection is so significant based on what the sources say?
Sure. So the sources explain that SFN actually damages the tiny nerve fibers, the small autonomic fibers.
Okay.
And these are the ones that automatically control things like your blood pressure and heart rate, sort of behind the scenes.
Right, the automatic stuff.
Exactly. So when you stand up, these fibers normally tell your blood vessels to constrict, tighten up, and your heart to maybe beat a bit faster to fight gravity.
Makes sense.
But if SFN has damaged those fibers, that signal is, well, it's impaired. The message doesn't get through properly, so the body struggles to compensate.
So it's a direct hit to the system that's supposed to prevent this blood pressure drop. And it's not a minor issue either. The sources stress there's a significant link to, well, higher morbidity and mortality.
Yeah, mainly because of falls, which can be serious.
Right, falls. And also links to other big problems like cardiovascular disease and neurodegenerative diseases. It really underlines why figuring out the cause is so important.
Absolutely. And the sources helpfully categorize the main potential causes. One really big one is drug-induced. Medications are pointed out as a major factor.
Yeah, that list was pretty long in the source materials. Lots of different blood pressure meds like alpha blockers, diuretics, nitrates, ACE inhibitors, ARBs, beta blockers, even some calcium channel blockers, so maybe less often.
Right. And not just blood pressure drugs. Also things like certain antidepressants, tricyclics, SSRIs, antipsychotics, opioids, dopaminergic agents used for Parkinson's, anticholinergic drugs.
It's a wide range. And what I found interesting was the point that sometimes it's not just which drug, but maybe the number of blood pressure meds someone's on.
Yes, that's a key insight from the sources, that the total number might be a better predictor than any single class of drug. It maybe points to the cumulative burden or perhaps just patients with more complex health issues needing multiple meds.
Okay, so beyond drugs, what else? The sources mentioned simply not having enough fluid in the system.
Yeah.
Intravascular volume depletion.
Exactly. If your overall fluid volume is low, there's just less blood for the system to manage when gravity pulls it downwards upon standing. The body's compensation mechanisms just don't have enough to work with.
Like trying to run a pump that's low on water.
Pretty much. Then there's the neurogenic cause, which we kind of touched on with SFN.
This is where the nervous system itself is the issue.
Yes. The sources describe it as a failure of the sympathetic nervous system. That's the part that handles your fight or flight response, but also these crucial automatic blood pressure adjustments.
Okay.
So if there's damage there, you don't get that necessary quick vasoconstriction or heart rate increase. The sources mention diminished release of norepinephrine, a key chemical signal for this.
And this neurogenic type is linked to specific conditions in the sources, like Parkinson's?
Correct. Primary neurological diseases like Parkinson's are mentioned, but also secondary causes from other chronic conditions. Things like diabetes, chronic kidney disease, certain autoimmune diseases, even heavy long-term alcohol use, some cancers causing what are called paraneoplastic syndromes, and specific neuropathies like Guillain-Barré.
That's quite a list. And one more category the sources mention sometimes, they just don't know the cause.
That's right, idiopathic orthostatic hypotension. And the sources indicate it's not uncommon. Some studies, especially looking at SFN patients with OH, found the cause remained unknown in, maybe up to half the cases.
Half.
Yeah. And alcohol gets a specific mention too, both short-term effects like vasodilation and diuretic effects and potential long-term nerve damage.
So wrapping this up based on our sources, it seems OH can really come from a lot of different places. Medications, fluid levels, nerve damage.
Absolutely. And what this means for you, the listener, is that understanding the specific reason behind OH is really key for managing it effectively. But, as the sources clearly show, finding that reason isn't always simple.
It really makes you think. If just changing your posture, just standing up, can expose these pretty fundamental problems in how our body regulates something as vital as blood pressure, what else might be subtly affecting our body's automatic systems all day long in ways we don't even recognize?